Welcome to the BXG podcast, the podcast where pop culture and nerd culture meet at the nexus of the universe and are melded as seamlessly as Aladdin in the island of Dr. Moreau. I am one of your hosts, Bretton Bestwick, alongside my co-host. It's good. It can always be better. Greg Filson. Greg, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. Just had a bunch of rain yesterday, and here in beautiful Santa Barbara, which is always much needed. It was a little crazy. It was cold here for us. It's like 48 degrees most of the day. I was freezing. Yeah. So. Yeah. So no. Other than that, no, it's good. Pretty normal.
Yeah. Good for you. Let's see here. Housekeeping. We've got the BXG podcast post most Fridays at 7 a.m. on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Pandora, and other podcast services around the globe. We were late last week due to the holiday by a day, and then the BXG episode went up about 3 hours late this morning, which was part 2 of the Star Wars extravaganza. So now both part 1 and part 2 are in the wild. And we actually have a question about that. So we'll take that. We'll just go ahead and take it right now. Bob Sacamona writes in. Bob Sacamona writes in and asks, it really sounds like you guys like less than 50% of the Star Wars movies. Would you even consider yourself Star Wars fans at this point? Or do you actually consider yourselves Star Wars haters, adversaries, or opponents?
And my thing is if you really like the original 3, which anybody that has watched these movies does, I think you consider yourself a Star Wars fan. I mean, you like that. That's what that is. That's what you grew up with until we were both 15, 16 when, around that age, whenever, I guess I was 14, you were 15, whenever.
14 or 15, yeah.
Episode 1 came out. And it's like, I'm never rooting against it. I don't want these movies to be bad. So I'm a Star Wars fan. It's like being a sports fan. It's like, yeah,
right.
I think it's the same thing. It's like, I'm not rooting against this. And I like, I would say I like 6 of the movies. I'm not going to.
Yeah.
And
I like 7. Okay. I like Phantom Menace.
It's fine. I know a lot of people have told me since like this episode came out that they're like, oh, you don't really like Phantom Menace. I was like, no, I don't. I'm sorry. And I was just like, okay, well, it was mostly because of the lightsaber battle. They're like, well, that didn't turn you. And I was like, no, because the rest of the movie is pretty much just a pile of hot garbage for me. But I don't know. I still like. I want when they make 3 more movies, I want them to be good. I want to like these movies. I think that's the way when you consider yourself a fan of something is like as long as you're not rooting against it, you're still a fan.
Well, that's the thing that I think is that it's 2 things. I think the sports metaphor is perfect because, for example, my favorite team's the Indians, right? My favorite sports team, any sport, is the Cleveland Indians. Soon to be Cleveland something else, but for now the Cleveland Indians. I don't agree with them trading Mike Clevenger, soon to be Francisco Lindor, Trevor Bauer, Corey Kluber, any of these guys. I don't agree with it, but that doesn't make me not a fan of the team.
Right.
When the team's not doing well, when they're bad and they're 62 and 100 and they're bad, I acknowledge that they're bad, but I'm still a fan of the team. And so in us, so that's part 1 of that. But part 2 of that is that, part of what we're doing is being critical. We were critical. We've been critical with Mandalorian episodes, with challenge episodes, with the Star Wars thing. It's kind of what we're doing to say if something's bad. And Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker are bad. And so I don't want to say it's our job because we're not getting paid for this, so it's not our job. But it's our, part of what we're trying to do here is be objective. And the big part of being objective or putting out content in which you're kind of breaking things down or whatever is being honest about your opinion. And I think that to say, are you an adversary of Star Wars? I'm an adversary of bad Star Wars. I'm an opposer of bad Star Wars.
Right.
I'm a hater of bad Star Wars. And the reality of it is that since the original trilogy, we've gotten more bad than good as far as the movies go. I think that The Mandalorian is starting to help change that. I wouldn't consider myself a non-Star Wars fan just because 4 of the movies are terrible, and I'm going to say that they're terrible. So no, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. It's just, I think as long as you're not in there, I guess the one thing I will say about sports franchise, if you're like the Jets, and I'm sure Jets fans were rooting for them to go 0-16, because they wanted Trevor Lawrence. But that's the only thing. Like, you're only rooting against it, so it is better.
Right.
But in movies, there's no point in rooting against something for it to get better, because that doesn't do anything. So because there are people that would nitpick and say like, "Well, what about this?" But I'm just going to clarify that. I think as long as we're still rooting for, if you're still rooting for that team / movie to be successful, I guess this will just go to my point. I didn't want the new DC movies to be bad after the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. I wanted them to be good, because I like Batman. It's one of my favorite characters in all of fiction, and so that's just another thing. Like, it makes me upset, and we'll get to that later on. But it just makes me upset when you take something that's cool and good and you crap on it.
Sure. So that answers that question. Episode 14, which was last week's episode, we did a rent bypass review for Tenet, and we did the airing of the grievances. So go ahead and check that out. It was pretty comical, and some people got some things off their chest, so that was good. We can be reached at the Facebook page, facebook.com/BXG podcast, or by email, which is bxgpodcast@gmail.com. We do have a few corrections and clarifications from last week. Mandalorian debuted November 12th, 2019. Rise of Skywalker, December 16, 2019. I slipped and said Mandalorian came before Last Jedi. I stated that the Avengers game was developed by Crystal Dynamics and published by Squaresoft. Squaresoft and Enix became Square Enix. It's been almost 20 years by now, so it was a goof by me. And then I don't know, we did the cast the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer live action film, and I kept referring to the king of the island of misfit toys as King Moon Raker, but it is in fact King Moon Razor.
What are you gonna
do? I guess you're not gonna rake the moon, apparently. So we've got that. Okay, we do have a great show tonight. Our 6-pack of topics, which we're doing one little fun thing for. We've got a review. We've got the challenge. Obviously, we've got some quick hitters. We might talk about some New Year's resolutions. So we have a great show tonight. Schoolboy Q's here, so we want to thank Schoolboy for dropping by to...
Wow, Schoolboy was free.
Well, there's no concerts right now, so we're all digital. We do want to thank... we have new intro and outro music that was provided for us by our guest from the other week, Dallas Richardson, DJ Outro, put something together for us. I gave him the unenviable task of combining Mega Man and The Mandalorian, and he pulled it off, so shout out to him for that, and we're going to start using that on this episode, so that's that.
Thanks, Dallas.
Are you ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do this. Okay, so the first thing we talked about last week, we talked about this episode is going to go live January 1st, 2021. We talked about doing a best of episode or best of topic of 2020, and we realized somewhere along the line that nothing good happened, or at least very little good happened. So we decided we're going to hand out some awards. We're going to hand out the very first ever BXG awards. These awards have no value, no real criteria, and are assigned on an individual basis for the year of 2020. We each chose 5 awards. I do not know Greg's list. Greg does not know my list, but these are going to be the 2020, the BXG awards. And if you are a winner, the award's in the mail. Okay?
Yes.
So why don't you go ahead with your number 1 award?
My number 1 award, and I should say I did 6 awards just because I had to get this in here, but this is just my favorite commercial that I would say almost every other day, is just the expired Geico commercial. I love that
we've got
commercial.
problem.
It makes me so happy. There's some commercials that, like, especially if you're watching like the NCAA tournament, where you just get so annoyed. This commercial could be every commercial during a break for me. I have not lost any energy with it. It cracks me up every single time. It's just it's one of those things where it's just like if you're having a bummer day, you hear someone say expired based purely on nothing else, and then I just run over and I'll just go expired. So that's like my number one, like, this kind of helped me get through 2020.
I was actually just doing that like literally today.
Oh, sure. I did it yesterday. Yeah, because when I was at the restaurant, somebody said the word expired, and I just started screaming it. And some people don't know it because if they don't watch TV or whatever.
Do you remember? I don't remember which year it was, but the I want to say it was a Long John Silver commercial, and it was the Gilligan's Island theme about a skewer in a 3-hour tour.
Yes.
Man, I'll tell you what. My dad beat that horse until it was dead, reincarnated, and dead again. He really...
He loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so the number one award for me, and I did nominees as well, so biggest bomb of the year. So the nominees are going to be the government's COVID response, the PS4 and Xbox One version of Cyberpunk 2077, but the winner goes to my dog, Sadie, for her farts after she ate 24 Reese's Cup cookies.
Oh, God.
And her farts for 3 straight days smelled like hellfire and brimstone. It was like the Sex Panther section of Anchorman where they were just saying all the horrible things. Like, this was like turd wrapped in burnt hair. Like, it was worse than that. It was like a burnt turd wrapped in burnt hair.
Indian food inside a baby's diaper.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was awful. So that was the biggest bomb of the year. So that's my first winner tonight. Sadie is not present to accept her award, however.
Oh, you're there to accept it for her.
Sure.
My second award, and I figured it was, because I work at a bookstore, I went with my favorite book that wasn't nominated for anything, which is usually how things work for me, because I try not to. Well, I don't intentionally do it. It's just I like weird books.
Right.
It's just and it ends up that way. But sometimes it was weird. I was getting frustrated. The past 2 years, my favorite book ended up being nominated for awards, and I got like, what the heck's going on? Am I becoming these like national award people? No. So I nominated. I have 2 fiction and 2 nonfiction, and the award. These are all winners. These are all winners for me. It's the Cactus League.
Give everybody a participation trophy.
Exactly. So for my 2 fiction, the Cactus League by Emily Nemens, which she is an editor for the Paris Review. Book is incredible. Came out early. It came out right before COVID.
Is it about spring training?
It is. And it's so good. It was so funny because like I saw the cover and it has a cactus, has a baseball. I'm like, in.
Yeah, right.
I'm already in. And then I read it, and it was like, it's about baseball, but then it's not about baseball at all because things like that. Like, the best baseball stories are never about baseball.
Sure. Right.
As much as you and I both love baseball, the best baseball stories are never about baseball. Incredible book. I can't... And it didn't get nominated for anything, and this was like her first... If it did, it was like super under the radar, not the big awards. And then The Lying Life of Adults by Elena Ferrante, which I've mentioned on this show before... I mostly want to say that I love it because it got me into her other books, which I just completely enjoy. And if you're interested in the emotional development of Italian teenage girls and you're a 35-year-old man, this is your book. This is your book. Which is so weird. But I have fallen, this is where I'm at now. There's probably like a Freudian thing that I don't know about.
Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. Couldn't keep it together.
And then my next 2, and I've mentioned these both on the show. These are my best 2 nonfiction. I'll go with Old World Italian by Mimi Thorson, just my favorite cookbook this year. She's actually had 3 of my favorite cookbooks of the year since I started working at Chaucer's. The other ones were French cookbooks. I've done many recipes. People follow me on the gram. I did her pork loin recipe.
At GT Phil's.
Yeah, at GT Phil's. I did her pork loin recipe for Christmas, and it was a hit. Unbelievable. The garlic soaking in the juice. Amazing. And then my other favorite nonfiction was Why We Drive by Matthew B. Crawford, who went to UCSB out here. For me, as anyone that has been around me for probably more than 10 minutes understands that I love driving. I'll drive anywhere. And I don't like the idea of not being able to drive and having autonomized cars. I like being behind the wheel and being away. And the whole book was that the theme of that book was what happens if we have autonomized cars? Are you just working constantly? And it's like, that's the thing about driving. It's like when you're driving, you might be thinking about work, and you probably are a lot of times, but you can't actually, or you shouldn't be. I should say you shouldn't be doing your work in your car. And the joy of driving, the getting away from life. Yeah, it's just one of those things. Yeah, it's just one of those things, and I'll always love driving. I mean, you know, I haven't done it in a long time, but boy, I do miss like a Sunday drive.
Right.
You know, you probably did it as a kid, and you know, I don't know if you do it now that you have kids, but do you just do the thing where like we're hopping in the car and we're going for a drive? We might end up at Dairy Queen, but which usually you do. You usually end up. Right. I would always end up at Dairy Queen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Shirley's.
We would do the drive whenever we were trying to get the kids to take a nap.
Oh, sure.
Because they would sleep, you know, like sleep in the car or fall asleep in the car. But they don't really do that anymore, so we don't really do that anymore. Number 2 for me, comeback player of the year. Okay.
Nice.
So we got LeBron James, came back, groin injury in the bubble, 4th title. Great story. That's number 1 nominee. Number 2 is Alex Smith. The guy almost died or lost his leg or whatever.
He did almost die.
And he's out there. Somehow Alex Smith gives the Washington football team the best chance of winning, which is crazy. Also a great story. But this year's comeback of the year, the award is going to go to Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you something, Greg. Thunder only happens when it's raining.
That's sort of true.
Yeah, well, you know. Players only love you when they're playing.
It's true. That is true.
Lay on, McDuff.
I wish I had some cranberry juice right now to put down.
Yeah.
But I don't,
How about this, zero sweetener, 0 sodium, 0 calories, innocent LaCroix water.
LaCroix. Or LaCroix, depending on where you're from and how you say it.
The official, unofficial drink of the BXG podcast.
Thank you, LaCroix. So my third award, I'm actually going to switch my thing because I actually want my last award to be the third that I have on. My best movie, which it was amazing to me that I was talking to Jamie about. I was like, oh, best movies. Yeah. We did have movies that came out this year that I liked. And I'll go in actual order of my favorite movie. Emma, with my girl Anna Taylor-Joy from the Queen's Gambit. That movie is so good. It's stylistically looks crazy good. It's just a good story. It's funny. It's a good adaptation of Emma. It's such a fun movie, and if you like period pieces, you'll like it. But I think if you just kind of like dry humor, which this movie is just saturated with, right? Yeah, it's saturated with. It's so good, and everybody looks cool. It's mostly like British actors, and it's a really, really like unexpectedly great movie that when we watched it, I was like 5 minutes in, I told Janice, like, this is really good, and I don't think it's going to get bad. Like, you could just tell that it was funny and serious and what that storyline's supposed to be about. And then my number 2 movie is Tenet. I've watched it twice now in its entirety. I still have no idea what is really going on. But the second time I watched it, I was like, oh, I'd like this more. And it's because, like, I still didn't know every single thing that was happening because, obviously, I don't think you're supposed to. I know only maybe Christopher Nolan knows.
Right.
But then, like, when you listen to the dialogue more the second time, it's like the characters have no idea, which is cool.
Yeah.
And I like that. And it's like, there's no way, like, John David Washington or Robert Pattinson have any idea. They're just reading their lines, but they understand, like, we're not supposed to know. Like, this is this weird time travel. and it just looks so great. And I think if there were actual, I mean, there's going to be Oscars. If this doesn't, it's not going to win Best Picture. I don't know what will. It's not going to win Best Picture. I still, like I said, I have no idea what will. Some movie I've probably never heard of. When I looked at Time Magazine's Best Movies of the Year, I was like 9 of them I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm sorry.
Good.
Yeah, good. Yeah, thanks, Time, for making me not feel stupid. You're just shoving stuff in my face. And then, but it was just a fun movie. Like, what I love most about Christopher Nolan and I love the Batman movies, but Batman aside, is that I love that he just wants you to feel stupid. And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm totally okay with that. And then my favorite movie was Invisible Man with Elizabeth Moss. Wow. I mean, it is one of those movies where you are just like my palm. I'm literally just thinking about a couple scenes. My palms are sweaty. It is gripping.
Difficult to grip with sweaty palms, though.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. And that's what makes it's a slippery movie. It's a VHS covered in liqueur. But it's just, she's really good. If you haven't seen her in other things, other than Mad Men, well, she was great in Mad Men, but I'm just saying she's just generally great.
Yeah, Handmaid's Tale is very good. She's
good in she's good in everything. Man, this movie is just so perfect. It's a great horror psychological thriller. I think it was streaming on HBO whenever we watched it. It might still be, because why would you take something off at this point? But yeah, if you really just want to sit down and just be yelling at the screen, which is fun to do during COVID times, when you can only just have you or your partner around to yell at. Yeah, so those are my 3 movies, which I couldn't believe I came up with 3 movies.
Yeah, number 3 for me is the award for worst late night host. The nominees are Andy Cohen and Samantha Bee, and I want to thank them for their participation. But the winner of the worst late night show host is James Corden. And
I really like Andy Cohen, by the way. I want to make sure everyone knows that I like Andy Cohen.
Congratulations. I was thinking how much I hate James Corden and how little I think he's funny. I don't think he's funny at all. And
you know what he has? It's
nothing.
The karaoke thing.
That's
just saying.
Nope.
No, whether
Dumb.
you like that or not, that's why he's popular.
Dumb thing. The carpool karaoke. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't think he's funny. I don't think any of his bits are funny. And I wanted to find a way to acknowledge how much I dislike him. And so giving him this award, this fabricated, made up, this may be the reason why I made these awards up, was just to acknowledge how much I dislike James Corden. So James Corden, congratulations. You have won the BXG award for worst late night host.
Congratulations, James. It's an award for him, which he'll never have. I'm honestly not huge on him either. I think actually during all of this, I don't think anyone's done great. It's hard, and I understand that. Jimmy Kimmel, for me, has been my favorite of everyone that does these late things, because in John Oliver too, but the fact that he wins, this is going to be just a little rant for me. John Oliver wins the Emmy. He only has to do 1 show a week.
Right. Yeah, that's silly.
And it's a half-hour show.
And
so
is it even all year?
It's not all year.
Or is
so
it
it's like
24
no, it's like half a year, like everything else on HBO. So it's one of those things where it kind of bugs me, and it's not John Oliver's fault. He's just accepting an award, but it's just the way the awards. If you have to do a show 4 nights a week, or if you have to do an hour-and-a-half show like Saturday Night Live, once a week, where you actually cognizant and funny, but also the thing with Saturday Night Live is they sometimes have to change things on the fly. In the middle of because that's live. It is actually taped live, whether people actually believe that or not. It actually is
live. Yeah.
Right.
But it's in front of an audience and
right. Yeah. So it's one of those things where they do actually the writing there is so much harder than people give it credit for.
Right.
I still think that Saturday Night Live is the toughest thing you can do in show business, because you are doing live and you're doing comedy, which is the hardest thing to do. Being funny is the hardest thing to do. Yeah. That's just my Saturday Night Live take.
Sure.
And also just my John Oliver show is good, but it's overrated. Anyhow.
Number four for you? Yeah, number 4 for you.
Oh, TV shows, which I'm like super pumped that I got to this. I went with 4 because I actually couldn't separate the two. The Queen's Gambit, which is incredible, and like I said, Anna Taylor-Joy, and the Crown Diana years, which I honestly like did not think I was going to get super into, but Janie wanted to watch these, and I was like, sure, awesome, absolutely incredible. It's like there's sort of some fictionalization of characters like that, but then when you go back and you find things out that it's not too far off, and it's like, well, it's not that off of actual things, so it's pretty realistic to the show. Season 2, no, the show with Penn Badgley. That's a great show. If
I'm more of a Penn and Teller.
Oh, to each their own. It's super weird. It's like, I think it has a pretty good following, but it feels like a cult following because anytime you like, if someone's mentioned it, you're always just like, oh, you watch it too? Or like, oh, wait, you watch it? Which is fun to say because it's you. Yeah. But the number one show for me, it's The Mandalorian.
It's a good show.
It's a great show. Pick. I don't have to talk. We don't talk any more about it. It's just a great show.
We've talked enough about it.
Yeah, exactly.
We've talked a lot about it. My number 4 award goes to the best spray product.
Spray product?
The nominees. Okay. The nominees are Trump's spray tan. It's great coloring. Great color. Rudy Giuliani's hair black. But the winner. I thought and the BXG award goes to Poopery. Poopery. Are you familiar with Poopery?
I am not familiar with Poopery.
It's a bathroom spray that you spray after you poo, and it helps tamp like things down. No.
Oh, I thought maybe it smelled like
flowery.
Okay.
It's supposed to eliminate. Supposed to eliminate that smell. So Poopery, it's got me out of a tight spot here and there.
I'm sure.
When other people have it in their homes. Yeah. So, Poopery.
Did they make a travel size bottle that you can just take?
It's only yay.
Okay.
So you can just carry it in your
your
sachet.
I would say your satchel.
Yeah. Right. So there you go. That's number 4 for me. Number 5 for you, sir.
So this is Person of the Year for me.
I'm here to accept.
Also, unfortunately, we're not nominated.
Oh,
sorry. So this was pretty easy because 2 of these people put out 2 albums, and then this other person is in 2 of my favorite things. So it's Sturgill Simpson, Taylor Swift, and Anna Taylor-Joy. God bless them all. I'm not going to pick a winner because I love all 3 of these people. I went through Cutting Grass Volumes 1 and 2 today. I just cut through them. So good. I listened to Evermore last night before I go to bed. I listen to Evermore every night before I go to bed. And
like a lullaby.
It is just beautiful. And like, what was great last night is I was pretty tired when I started putting it on, and I like fell asleep for a little bit, and I woke up to hear the final 2 songs, and I was like, yes. I'm so, and Lady Gaga is a nominee for Chromatica, and so is Dua Lipa, but it was just Person of the Year. If I had to pick one, it would be Taylor Swift.
No surprise.
Because she also did the Disney Plus for Folklore. And that was incredible. So she did 3 like actual like producing things. That's a lot. When people did nothing. A lot of people did nothing.
Yeah, that's true. Number 5 for me. Number 5 is the Best Podcast Award, and the nominees are the Joe Rogan Experience, Sacred Simple, it's a PlayStation podcast.
I thought about doing this too.
And the winner goes to the BXG podcast. Here to accept the award is Greg Felsen.
Oh wow! I have a lot of people to thank. I don't leave anyone off the list. I want to thank Janie. I want to thank my mom. I want to thank Dallas. I want to thank Bob Sacramano. I think that's it. Like it covers all my bases on that one. That was gonna be my bit for it. So
sure, good.
But yeah, no, thanks, Brent. Yeah, we're pretty good. I was literally gonna do the exact same thing and nominate, but then I was gonna say, and to accept the award is me, and not even.
Yeah, we're gonna do one of those shirts, and it's gonna say JD and Sherry and Dallas and Bob Sacamano, and on the back it'll say and Brenton.
That would be so great. Oh my god, that would be a great shirt.
That'd be funny. So
people like the idea of merch, by the way.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
And if listen, I'm happy to make a shirt. Don't ask me how much it's going to cost, and it better be a one size fits all situation. But
I'm a size small, as long as I can get that face
child
of me.
Small.
No, I'm an adult small. A child's extra large.
Okay. Number two.
I don't even have the document. I have no idea where we're going because I have the wrong document open. That's okay.
No, you're good. Number two is going to be our rent bypass review for Wonder Woman 1984. So the main characters here, as we've done this now a few times, and this is how we'll proceed. The main characters are Diana Prince / Wonder Woman, played by Gal Gadot; Steve Trevor, played by Chris Pine; Maxwell Lord, played by the Mandalorian himself, Pedro Pascal; and the Cheetah / Doctor Barbara. God, I can't talk. Minerva, played by Kristen Wiig. Okay, so spoilers incoming, and this is a pretty new one. So I mean, if you haven't seen it and you want to see Wonder Woman 1984, check the show notes, because I'll put the spoiler times in. But spoilers for Wonder Woman 1984 headed your way with the plot here, and here we go. So the year is 1984. Diana is working at the Smithsonian. She meets Dr. Minerva, and they are analyzing a stone that appears to grant the person who is holding its wishes. Diana wishes for her lost love, World War II pilot Steve Trevor return, and Barbara wishes to be like Diana. The catch is that your wish is granted, but you lose what you value the most. Maxwell Lord, a corrupt con man, wishes to become the stone itself, so that he may grant the wishes but also absorb the losses of the wishers. The world is thrown into complete chaos, and as Diana's powers begin to weaken, she realizes she must rescind her wish to restore her power to stop Max. She's able to do so as Steve disappears, and she thwarts the Cheetah, who Barbara becomes in her quest to become more powerful. And she's able to convince the whole world, including Max himself, to rescind their wishes. And order is restored. There's obviously some other plot beats, and we'll probably get into some of those. I also want to say that it's worth noting that about 2 days after this movie was released theatrically and on HBO Max, that Wonder Woman 3 was confirmed, with Patty Jenkins, the director, and Gal Gadot both returning. You watched Wonder Woman like right before this, right?
Yeah,
like,
I watched it back to back, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll start with this. I thought the first Wonder Woman was awesome. It takes a little bit to get going, which was fine. It reminded me of the first Captain America. These movies kind of remind me of Captain America in a sense, except that I love all the Captain America movies. And she's kind of like Captain America in a weird way, but she is kind of in the vein. And I was actually excited. And I heard other people talk about it, and like sometimes I'm like always like, well, people are kind of, and this sounds weird, people are kind of in a crummy mood post Christmas. So it's like you never know if like they're being upset about something or whatever. I was stoked. First Wonder Woman, awesome. It's funny enough. I really like Gal Gadot, and I really like Chris Pine in these movies. Both these movies. No problem with either of these characters. She's great. She looks like Wonder Woman. I like her act. I mean, she was Miss Israel in 2004 for a reason. She's good to look at. And Chris Pine's just like, I always like Chris Pine in everything. Like, he's really good in Star Trek. He knows how to be, like, his comedic timing's really good for someone that isn't a funny, like, known as a funny person, but his comedic timing's really good. So I was actually excited. It's like, and then actually the first 90 minutes of this movie are pretty fun. I mean, it's It's fine. Like that, the mall scene is what it is. Like some people I've read say it's cheesy. It's like it's an action scene in a comic book movie. It's a comic book movie, and so you have to go with that. You know, but when Steve comes back and he's learning all the new stuff, that's a great scene. I mean, I love that, and I mean, I do like the clothing because it's the 80s and stuff like that. But then it just, to me, this movie falls off the cliff fast. You know, when the president says, "What's going on here?" I'm like, yep, you're right. What is going on here? This, I really wanted to like it because I liked the first one, and because I really like, I'm excited because I think maybe the third, this is a DC problem, and this is what happens with all DC movies, is that they want to be Marvel movies.
Yeah.
So they try to be funny for a little while, but then they're like, we're DC, we have to get dark.
Yeah.
And it's like, I understand the D in DC is not dark comics, it's actually detective comics.
Right.
But they think it's dark. And there's no reason for this movie to get as dark as it does. It gets so, just abysmally black, and it could have just been funny. We're watching this, and I'm like, I wish it was just Gal Gadot and Chris Pine as, you know, as Diana and Steve, just him learning stuff. Just make it a rom-com, hour 45, he's learning stuff, they're having a great time. And that's it. I would have been fine with this, but this movie went on forever. It's like when you're like, when you like make a wish, when she's telling everyone to make a wish, and we're both like, I wish this movie would end. It was just like, I feel bad. It's like I actually like, I know I sound weird. Like I feel bad because I wanted this movie to be better. I really, really did. And Pedro Pascal kind of disappointed me too. As you know, because we like him as the Mandalorian, and it's just like there's so much overacting, which. He probably was told to be like, be more Max Lord, which because your name is Max Lord. I mean,
right. So I wrote,
and these are all canon characters, just so everyone knows.
Yeah.
It's just because I don't know. Every time I don't know, people actually understand that like every single character in this movie is canon from the comic books. Yeah.
So I wrote in my notes, Max Lord way over the top. I think part of that was, I mean, he's a con man. He's a hustler. He's trying to get investors and everything, so like all that.
I liked all that. I liked the commercials.
It made sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I wrote down 3 pros and 3 cons. The humor, and this was mainly, as you kind of alluded to, the Chris Pine, Gal Gadot scenes, especially with him learning all the different things. So Steve dies.
It's a trash can.
Steve dies in Wonder Woman, the first one. He sacrifices himself. She brings him back. The question I had that he sees the other guy in the mirror, the guy that he turned into or turned into him.
I guess he just is the soul of Steve. She sees him. Because she says, all I see is you.
Okay.
I have another question, but
so
we'll get to it.
But the scene with him trying to get dressed was great because it covered literally every 80s fashion.
Yeah. I love a montage.
Yes.
And that's a great montage.
And it covered every fashion combo that you could think of, where he's rolling the suit coat up Miami Vice style.
Yeah.
And you know and that was one of the things that they really nailed the visual aesthetic of this movie of the 80s. You know, the bright colors and you know the when Kristen Wiig goes to the gym and she's got like the let's get physical leotard and there's the dudes with the tank tops and you know the one guy had a tank top and I like did a double take. I was like, does that say Hulkamania? It didn't. I don't think it did.
Oh,
but
it looks like
have.
It does. Yeah.
Yes,
they probably just didn't have the rights to it, but it looks like that.
You know, the fanny pack, the Nikes, just the wild sweatsuits. Like they really nailed that. All the bright colors in the mall, the whole strip mall feel was. If people want to say that's cheesy, then okay, that's cheesy, but that's 100% what the 80s were.
Right.
You know, so I really feel like they nailed the aesthetic. The flip side of that, which was one of my cons, was they really missed an opportunity to have a great soundtrack. Because you could have had a
100%.
phenomenal 80s soundtrack. And they just didn't do that. And I felt like that was a missed opportunity. Because it could have gone with the humor.
Could have been a Galaxy in the Guardians of the Galaxy kind of. Yeah, that could have been that for sure.
Yeah,
which I think disappointed me.
Right. They messed with with not incorporating more into the soundtrack.
Which I wonder why they didn't. Like, it seems like if you're going to just set a movie in 1984, like, isn't that the main reason you do it? Is because of the music? Like, anytime.
Well, just because of the aesthetic in general. You know,
just like, yeah, that's everything. What I mean. Like, if you're going to pick a date, just make everything that. I don't think that's a problem. You could have had Thriller. I mean, like, you know, I mean, this is one of those weird things to me. Some Poison, yeah.
If you're making a movie in the 80s and it doesn't have "She's My Cherry Pie" in it,
or Prince, I mean,
there's
Purple so many
so many,
and they have the money to do it. It's not like they don't, you know. This isn't some indie flick. It's like, oh my god, we got to pay for this.
Yeah, so they missed on that. I liked that she was more vulnerable when she lost her powers. Because here's the thing, and you kind of hit on this: is the first Wonder Woman movie is probably in my top 3 standalone superhero movies. And what I mean by that is there's not like Thor Ragnarok. That's a Thor movie, but it's also a Hulk movie. You know what I mean? Or like Captain America Civil War. It's like Avengers Light.
That's
or even
Avengers
Captain
movie,
America. Yeah, even Captain America and the Winter Soldier is a Black Widow movie. But I would
say, Winter Soldier movie. I mean,
yeah, true.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like standalone movies, it kind of ranks up there. It's definitely below The Dark Knight, obviously, but I think it's right there with Black Panther for me. And I know from talking to people, talking to different women, they found it very empowering because she's a woman superhero, and the scene in Wonder Woman 1 when the town is under siege. And she gets out of the bunker and her theme song starts going with the heavy rock guitars, which they didn't use that particular version in this movie. And that disappointed me too. They still used the song, but it was more orchestrated. It wasn't like the rock thing. But when she steps out of the bunker, or the trenches rather, in the first one and goes storming across the field and just starts tearing people up, it's like chills, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this movie didn't have that moment like at all.
It wanted to when she learned how to fly.
Yeah.
But that just didn't hit for me, right?
No, it seemed cheesy. It was like almost cheesy.
Yeah.
I felt like the story was a little far-fetched, even for a superhero movie. And that largely for me has to do with the ending, but I'll get to that. I felt the villain combo was very underwhelming, and it actually gave me Batman Forever vibes of Two-Face and Jim Carrey, and Kristen Wiig's character gave me Jim Carrey Riddler like feels. How she was like all goofy and and then all of a sudden she's not.
Well, my thing was just like I like Kristen Wiig. I mean, I think
me
everyone
too.
likes Kristen Wiig, and she's always kind of Kristen Wiig and everything, which is fine. I don't think that's like a problem to be a certain thing, but like she goes from being that character, which I think was like, here's my thing is I feel like you either have the Cheetah or you have Max Lord.
Yeah.
And there's a way to write either one of those. But to have both made it so, and I understand the idea was just because she had, but that character, the Cheetah, is like the main she's the main antagonist in all the Wonder Woman comics. Right. So it's like you don't have to get rid of her.
Right.
Like, so, this is, you could have just had her happen, or you could have just had Max Lord.
Right.
I don't know which one I would have went with in this movie. Probably Kristen Wiig, even just because like I like her being in things and her character. Like for like 3/4 of the movie, you kind of get it, and then when she goes full on like the Cheetah, which I'll tell you, I did like the nod with her saying, "Oh, I like Animal Prints" early in the movie with the heels. That was cool. Like I'm a sucker for nods. If you're a comic book person and you know it, like a lot of people probably had no idea that she's even that character or that's canon. I'm guessing most people actually don't. And I read a little Wonder Woman, probably my second or third favorite DC comic book is obviously Batman's one, but and then Green Lantern, not at all ever.
Okay,
but
thanks.
Yeah.
Got a little worried there. Yeah, I mean, she was She was fine. I mean, at the end, when she gets her second wish, I guess she got a second wish, but she got to be she said she wants to be the apex predator, and then she looks like something out of the James Corden Cats movie.
Yeah, it was so weird.
That was an interesting choice. The ending for me didn't work, and here's why. She hops on. So basically, Max gets on this worldwide broadcast thing, and they tell him that the plasma particles are touching everyone, and so somehow that works with his wish thing, which the caveat is he's got to be touching you, and you have to say, I wish for $1 million or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he gets you get it, but you give up whatever your most valued thing is. So in Diana's case, it was her powers. In Barbara's case, it was her humanity. I thought that was a bit far-fetched. That this is that works. We'll just get him on the TV, and he's touching, quote unquote, he's touching everyone.
Yeah.
I thought that was a little, and again, this is a superhero movie, and you have to suspend disbelief a little bit.
Yeah.
But even that was a bit of a reach for me.
Yeah.
An even bigger reach was that she hops on and says, "Listen, everybody, I need you to be good now," and everybody's like, "Sounds great."
Right. It's just flipping a switch. And like people are like, "I'm rich now," and like the world's in chaos. I understand that, but like there are people that are probably making good on this.
Yeah. Well, and that's I think the basis probably for the third film will be, because we don't know what happened with Kristen Wiig's character. We saw her, but we don't know if she's caught or not. And as you said, she is the main antagonist, so I wouldn't be surprised if she retained some of her powers from the first wish. Maybe she rescinded the I want to look like something off the island of Dr. Moreau wish, but maybe she still gets her, super strength and speed and stuff. But I guarantee you that there's people out there who made this wish, like, I want to be a millionaire, and they lost, whatever, something that you could live without.
A mug signed by like Michael J. Fox or something.
Yeah. Somebody stole the hover boots from the Back to the Future set, and that's the thing they had to give up, but they get $1 million for it. Some people aren't going for that. And I think there's, like, everybody just at the drop of a hat is just, she's just saying, oh, you have to be good now. Everybody take your wishes back and we'll all be okay. That was no bueno. Here's the other thing. She broadcasted to the whole world, and she's on, I mean, just even if it's just her voice, right?
Yeah.
And, timelines. Bruce Wayne doesn't have that in his dossier come Batman v Superman time.
Right, yeah.
Come on now. He's the world's greatest detective. He's calling that info up.
Yeah.
There's a global event. Batman's not paying attention to that. And they established in Batman v Superman that, he is an older Batman who's been at it for a while. So there's a high chance probability based on timelines or whatever that he's going to have some knowledge of this event as it happened. I just think that this movie was a mess. And like you said, it's a shame because the first one's so good. Right now, this has a 59 critical score on Metacritic and a 4.3 user score.
Yikes.
Yeah,
65
but you know what?
on Rotten Tomatoes.
Here's the thing, and I'm gonna get into critical things, and I told you I was gonna have a rant coming in. So I was just curious about like critical scores versus user scores on Metacritic, and I started doing a little digging, and I pulled, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 movies and compared their critical score against their user score on Metacritic. Okay, so Metacritic is an aggregate website that balances, averages out all the critical scores for movies, games, TVs, music, whatever, books probably, I don't know. And it gives it a score based on what the averages are. Here's the 7 movies that I looked up. The Last Jedi, Avengers, Marvel's The Avengers from 2012, The Dark Knight, Lincoln, Jurassic World, Rogue One, and Tenet, since we just did that. Okay? And this is all going to make sense in a minute. These are the critical scores, okay? So Tenet, 69, Rogue One, 65, Jurassic World, 59, Lincoln, 86, Dark Knight, 84, Marvel's The Avengers, 69, and The Last Jedi, 84. So that's the average of those.
Oh my God.
Those movies for critical scores, right? Here's the user scores. Tenet, 73. Rogue One 76. So that's plus 4 for Tenet, plus 11 for Rogue One. Jurassic World 68. So that's up 9. Lincoln actually went down 7.5, but I assume that's because racist people review bombed this. I'm just guessing. I don't know. It's a great movie. The Dark Knight's a 90, so even that's up by 6. Avengers was a 69 critical. It's an 80 user score. And,
seems low. That movie's great.
Listen, man, all of the Avengers movies except for Endgame are critical scores in the 60s. All of them. And then Endgame I think is like a 77.
That is a effing disaster right there. Those movies.
So The Last Jedi, which critical was 84, user scores 4.3. So here's why I'm bringing this up. I think that, and I read a few of the reviews specifically for Avengers. A negative review that it received, it got a 20 out of 100. And the guy said, I can't remember the publication, but he said it was like one of the world's biggest gangbang videos, except nobody looked like they were having fun, was his critique of the movie. So here's where I'm getting at this, is that I think that these review sites and the critics they're way off base. And, you know, the listener or the viewer, and I think this goes for like media in general. I think that, say what you will about everything else that he has to say, but Donald Trump has a point when he talks about the quote unquote the lamestream media. And I think that, you know, this could be a political podcast and it's not, or this could be a sports podcast and it's not, and it could be a music or whatever. And it is what it is, and we talk about the things we talk about. And I think that it's important for the people who listen to this and future listeners and everybody to know that, you know, we are going to be as authentic as possible. And that's why we don't do scores, because I think scores are stupid. You know, I talked about that a little bit on last week's episode. But I think that it's places like podcasts and YouTube videos and things like that where you're going to find the most reasonable responses to movies, TV shows, whatever media it is that you're looking for. So that's what I'm just kind of asking the listener to consider is, you know, whether it's our opinion you trust or somebody else's or whatever. You know, I think that consuming content like this is going to be where you get your most authentic answers, or your most authentic takes on things like, you know, we talked about Tenet last week. I said it's a rent for me because it's not what I wanted it to be, right? We both said going in we wanted Wonder Woman to be good, and we were a little bit let down. I think we are going to talk to the people who are listening to us like we're talking to each other. And I think that that's important. You know, it's easy to go on to a website like IGN or whatever and find a review score, but you know, these sites and stuff like that, they're the old way, and people like us and, you know, anybody else out there that's doing things like this is, you know, I think where you're going to find the best takes. So, you know, we appreciate the people who listen to us, and we hope that just by trying to build a community and be authentic with our thoughts on these different things, that people will spread that around, like, hey, these are guys you can trust about X, Y, or Z.
Sure.
Yeah, I know I give you a hard time about liking Taylor Swift, you know, but at the end of the day,
you're not the only one.
Right. But at the end of the day, I also know that you're going to give me an honest opinion on that. Right. And if she puts out a CD and it's not good, you're going to be the
100% tell you.
Right.
It's not good. Yeah.
I mean, we did two episodes of Star Wars content where we basically took a dump on half the movie. So, you know, we're going to be quote unquote real and authentic with our responses. And
I have Wonder Woman's whip around me when we're watching this show. You can't tell it's on my lower region, but
I'm not going to listen. It's for the kids. That's all. I just wanted to, you know, because I researched this stuff and I wanted to see just, you know, what are the scores like, you know, and I checked it out and they weren't good. But even those scores, they're low, but I think they're somewhat unfair. So I just wanted to get that in, and I'll get off my soapbox now. But so rent by pass.
It's a rent for me. It's not a pass because I will say 100% when it's just Gal Gadot and it's just Chris Pine, those scenes are great. And she's also just really good. Like even the early Kristen Wiig scenes are really good too with Gal Gadot. Yeah. And I have like my thing with Gal Gadot going forward is kind of like the Chris Evans things, which he's been able to do. It's just like, what does she do after this? Right. And it wouldn't shock me if she kind of goes the Chris Evans route, where she does something kind of like on the, Knives Out thing, where she's not the good guy, but like, because I really, really like her. I think like she is, and more than just she's beautiful, it's just that she is engaging. Like she is Wonder Woman to me. Like you look at her, you're like, boy, this is Wonder Woman. Just like he's Captain America, and we're always going to reference him as Captain America, no matter what else he does. And So here's my thing too. It's just I think the third movie is going to be really good.
Yeah, I hope so.
I actually really like. I'll be shocked if it isn't awesome, because I think they're going to understand what they did wrong in this movie, and they're going to fix it.
Right. Yeah. I think so. We'll see. I think Patty Jenkins is a very talented filmmaker. Right. So, it's a rent for me also, and that's mostly just because right now it's basically free on HBO Max if you're a subscriber. No extra charge there. So, if you have that service, it's definitely worth at least taking a look at. You know what I mean? So, it's also a rent for me. So yeah. So with that in mind, we'll skip down to number 3. Which is more DC Extended Universe news. DC will be trying even harder to compete with the MCU. Starting in 2022, DC will release 4 films theatrically, with extra films coming straight to HBO Max. This will be done in 2 cinematic universes, the DC Extended Universe and the DC Multiverse. Ooh. According to The Verge, films like Joker and Robert Pattinson's The Batman will exist as standalone stories in the multiverse. Movies like Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and any future Henry Cavill Superman movies will exist in the DCEU until a Justice League team-up movie. No word on if Ben Affleck will return to the Cape and Cowl or if he will be recast. They will also be looking at potential spin-offs, movies and series to HBO Max, similar to how Marvel and Star Wars are approaching Disney+.
I just never know what DC actually wants to do, other than they want to be Marvel Studios. But they can't. Yeah. And the biggest reason why they can't is because his comic books are just...
characters are cool?
The coolest character... Well, Batman is the coolest character. But he has no actual superpowers.
Right.
And that's like the biggest... It's DC's biggest thing is that their coolest character is not a superhero.
Right.
And the second... Yeah, and that's the thing. It's just like... And Batman's super cool. Batman is... probably my second favorite comic book character ever to Spider-Man. Based purely on the comic books and not on movies, not anything else. Batman is my second favorite. I have a first edition of a Batman Spider-Man comic book, and I've gotten rid of most of my comic books by selling them. That one I have in the sleeve, in cardboard. It's in a lock case. That thing is like a cherished item to me. I read it once. I said, don't touch this again, Greg. Your oils will ruin this. I love that comic book. It's so weird because we said about Wonder Woman, it's like there's ways to do certain things a certain way to make them good, but it's like they try to be MCU and then they no, we can't. We have to make these dark. And I have no idea where they're going.
Even with Wonder Woman, I felt like the second one, there wasn't enough action in it for me. Like you said, make it an hour and 40-minute rom-com. That almost would have made more sense. There was the scene at the beginning, and then there was an action again for another hour and a half.
Yeah.
And it's like, listen, I love Gal Gadot. Her character, the dynamic with Chris Pine is great. But at the end of the day, this is a superhero movie, and we need shit blowing up. Yeah, that's just what it is.
It is. Like, it sounds super oh my God, you guys just want... No, that's a superhero movie.
That's a superhero movie.
You just, I would say every 20 minutes, you need something blowing up or you need a fight scene. That's what it is. I mean, that's a comic book.
At the end of the day, the Marvel movies are what they are. And Scorsese said, they're theme parks, they're roller coaster rides, they're whatever you want to call it. They're action figures running into each other for 2 hours. If DC wants to do that, and it's bright, yeah, okay. If DC wants to do that, they're going to have a hard time when their most popular character is Batman.
When he's a detective. When he's the world's greatest detective.
Batman does not lend himself to anything that the MCU... If Batman went to the MCU, they'd probably figure it out because that's what they do, but they'd have a hard
Right.
time because, like you said, he's not a superhero. He's just a dude. He's a really smart guy. He's got great gadgets, but at the end of the day, he's just a guy. And he's very dark.
And I understand that Iron Man is just a dude, too. I just want to point that out. I understand that Iron Man's just a dude, and they're the
but
same character.
He has a super suit.
Right. It's just... Because I know
He's
people...
a super suit that shoots plasma rays and can fly.
Tony Stark is a different level of superhero. Like, it's a different... He is a superhero.
Yeah.
I just make sure. Cover our bases.
Sure. But if that's what they want to play, if that's what DC wants to play, and I think they wanted to go that route with, like, Suicide Squad, the first one. Well, actually, they didn't. They didn't want to go that route. They wanted to go. They wanted to stay in the same lane as the Snyder Batman v Superman movie, and then people didn't like Batman v Superman, and so they told the director, I can't remember his name. They told the director, look, you need to brighten it up a bit. You got to brighten it up a bit. And it ended up being, the case where it was almost like two movies in one. If you're going in the 1984 aesthetic thing with the bright colors aside, because that's just a period. But if you want to go the bright action figures running into each other thing, you're going to have a hard time when Batman's your lead character. And they can say whatever they want about Superman being the main DC guy. Nobody gives a crap about Superman. He's not an interesting character. He's just not an interesting character.
Man.
And Henry Cavill's great, and I like him as an actor and everything. And he's done, in my opinion, as well as you can do in that role.
Yep.
But Batman's the alpha. He's a dark, brooding character, and nothing's ever going to be as good as the Nolan movies. Let's just get that out of the way.
Here's the reason why, like, real quick.
Because it's grounded in reality.
Because it's actually Detective Comics.
Kind of.
Well, he is, like, super... He's got the whole nerd space. I mean, like... Yeah. Bruce Wayne's pretty nerdy in those movies, considering that they still have to be movies.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like, they're still movies. You still need the action and everything. But, like, when he has, like... he's got the sonar, he's got, like, all that stuff going on.
Right,
like, that's Detective Comics to me. Like,
yeah, sure.
For movies.
Yeah. Well, we talked the one episode, however long ago, that we'd like to see, like, a detective noir movie Batman, but...
It'd be so good.
The other issue that I have with this is that you're trying to do two things at the same time. Well, we're going to do the DC Extended Universe.
Right.
We have all this stuff, but in case we come up with something that's awesome, it just fits in over here, like the Joker movie and the Robert Pattinson Batman movie. It's like, well, just make Robert Pattinson Batman then.
Yeah, just do it.
Just make.
He's awesome. He's great.
Just connect.
Make him Batman.
Just scrub the earth of Jared Leto's Joker and let Phoenix's Joker be the Joker. Just connect everything. It sends too many mixed messages.
Or just don't have the Joker.
You have to have the Joker.
I guess, but it's just like, it's one of those
not
things. Not
having the Joker is like not having Loki and Thor.
I guess. I hate being that reliant on a character, and even though I like that movie, it's just... they're going to have the Joker, whatever. Here's my thing. Just don't make it a new Joker.
Yeah.
I guess that would be the thing.
Yeah.
Don't reboot. Yeah, don't reboot another Joker.
Or try to just, or like you said, there's enough out there that they could stay away from the Joker. There's enough out there that they could build movies around, Ra's al Ghul or Two-Face or whatever. There's enough. Scarecrow. There's enough out there to do that. And do it in an interesting way, but I just think that the whole...
Condiment Man.
Do a movie with Condiment Man. That Condiment King. That would be...
That's right.
That would be the tops, man. That he should be the main, like I've seen like Colin Farrell, the Penguin, and all the guys for Robert Pattinson's the Batman movie. But like, what an amazing move would it be to have the main bad guy be Condiment King? They should do that. That would be like the biggest troll move ever.
It would be.
Oh, it'd be so good. I would love it. No, here's the thing: this is why none of this is going to work. You can put me on the record. There were 2 Iron Man movies, 1 Thor movie, 1 Captain America movie, 1 Hulk movie. That's 2, 5, 6, whatever. before the first Avengers movie. For the Justice League movie, there was 2 DC movies.
And then here's everyone.
And then here's everyone. And they tried to shoehorn these little cameo things of Aquaman, Flash, and Cyborg into Batman v Superman, and they looked ridiculous, I might add.
Yeah.
They looked absurd. They looked just crazy, cheesy, corny, especially the Aquaman one. And then all of a sudden, like you said, here's everybody without any further character development. They tried to catch up in 2 movies, and it just, those characters just aren't that interesting either. Like, there's a reason why Quicksilver just showed up in Avengers Ultron and then died, because just being fast isn't that cool if that's your only thing. And I think they could do some cool stuff with the Flash, like Flashpoint and time travel and stuff like that. Like, maybe we'll see, but I don't know, man. I just don't think the future of the DCEU is not very bright, if you ask me.
I would say just keep it Batman, keep it Wonder Woman.
Aquaman did okay commercially.
It didn't do I just well don't like it. That's just me personally, as not an Aquaman person. But keep it Batman, keep it Wonder Woman, keep it Robert Pattinson, keep it Gal Gadot. I mean, that's. I don't think that's a problem. And if people still look at Robert Pattinson as Twilight, grow up. I mean, this is where I'm literally at. He's awesome. He's gonna be great.
When was the last
Batman.
Twilight movie?
I have no idea. 2009. I don't even know.
Took him 12 years. Took 12 years for that vampire to turn into a bat, huh?
Exactly. Boom.
Number 4, the challenge episode and review. The challenge.
Here we go. This is why we have this podcast.
This is it. We're an hour and 10 in, and we're getting to the main reason. The challenge, MTV's The Challenge Double Agents Episode 3 review. Spoilers incoming. Challengers, competitors, athletes. I use that term very loosely. Yet here we are. Challengers compete in a wrestling match atop a moving semi-truck in which the objective is to wrestle your opponent off the truck and into a net on the sides. The winners of the challenge are Casey and Leroy, but it's worth noting that Liz and Nicole sustained fairly serious injuries. Nicole was withdrawn from the game, and at this time, no determination has been made on Liz. A scuffle over something dumb, as Greg correctly predicted, ensues. Josh tells CT that CT made Casey cry over his comments about cleaning the oven or the microwave or whatever. CT apologizes to Casey, but Josh alleges that he did not say that Casey cried. Yes, this is seriously what the entire argument was over. The producers,
so great. I was so happy. I was so validated.
The producers rolled back the tape to verify that yes, Josh did say that Casey cried. After they are separated, Devin decides to throw gas on the fire by yelling, "Big Brother sucks," which it does, which re-triggers the emotional roller coaster that is Josh. The house deliberates and nominates Devin to go into elimination. Leroy and Casey throw in Wes, who loses to Devin in what was essentially a tug of war. More partner shenanigans ensues as Devin chooses Tori, as his partner, and Corey gets Natalie, which is probably a win for Corey. Have at it, Hoss.
Here is the thing. My biggest takeaway from this is Devin knows how to play the game. He is he's the only one that knows what's going on. It's because he's best friends with Wes, who knows how to play the game. And the fact that Wes got thrown in, I understand what Leroy was doing, and most of them I like Leroy. That was a dumb decision. Because now you have someone that is a younger version of Wes controlling this game. And him picking Tori was so perfect. Because you're oh, you should take Natalie because she's the competitor. No, the word is infiltrate.
Right.
That's the key thing.
Infiltrate.
And so he just screwed up everything by doing that. She was so mad. I was cackling watching this because I'm Devin, you actually understand how this goes. You understand that the gold skull is important. You understand that messing up other alliances is important. This is the whole point of all these shows, but specifically this one, where you can just take someone that doesn't she wouldn't even touch him. It was hilarious, and he's laughing he knew this whole thing. It was
here's the other
so
thing I want to
good.
Say about Devin.
Devin's my favorite to win this show, by the way, right now. He knows how to play the game.
Stop it. Him yelling over and over again at Josh, what's 8 times 9?
So great.
Perfect.
So great. Josh is so stupid.
Here's the thing. They're going to throw Devin in over and over and over again. And at some point, he's going to, like, he's smart, but he doesn't have the same physicality as a lot of these other guys. And so if he winds up in a physical challenge, he's going to get rocked. I can tell you that right now. He's going to get rocked.
Here's my thing, though, is I always, like, this is the thing with this show that has cracked me up over the years. We always say this. We're always like, if this guy gets thrown in, he's going to, and then what'll happen is like, well, he's going to get thrown into this challenge with CT. And then it's going to be, or he's going to get thrown in his physical, we'll just play with what we got. He's going to get in this challenge with Josh, bigger guy. It's going to be like, here are multiplication tables.
Yeah.
And then Josh is going to be like, what are these squiggly lines? And like, that's what happens on...
Josh
this is what happens with this show.
Well, and if you have a smart guy...
And so is Fessy, by the way.
Go back a couple seasons, Josh was in a tug of war with Jordan, who literally... Right. He was in a tug of war with a guy that only has one hand, and he lost.
Yeah.
Because Jordan outsmarted him. But I'm going to go out on a limb here. Okay, I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to say Devin doesn't make it 2 more guys' eliminations before he's gone. I'm just going to stamp it. Double stamp.
I will say this. It's either that or he wins. It's either that or he wins.
We saw it in the previews.
There's no in between.
We saw it in the previews. They're basically telling him, they're like, just because you have a gold skull means nothing. We're going to keep coming at you. Yeah, and I think that's what it's going to be. And he's upset enough people that they are going to keep coming out of him. Well, yeah.
He's one of my favorite. He's
a pod
quickly
star.
Turned into one of my favorite people on this show.
Yeah, I never really liked him. Because he got into bananas for no reason the one season, and Johnny's my boy.
Well, if Johnny's not like all our boys, I have an issue. If Johnny Bananas is not your favorite...
There's people who don't like Johnny.
That's insane to me.
Yeah.
I understand if you're on the show and you don't like Johnny, but if you watch the show and you don't like Johnny... then you don't have commitment to the game.
Wow.
I'm going to say that right now. I will say that right now. Add us. Please.
I have a few other notes that I just want to call out. That Devin, my wife pointed out that Devin seems to be... So when they come back from commercial, one of the competitors always gives like a recap of what the challenge or the elimination is that they're doing at that moment. And it seems to be Devin a lot of the time because he's like functional and can talk and explain things. So
he's one of the few people that actually like knows how to speak.
Yeah, she noticed that. Kyle hyping himself up after his elimination win, and CT telling him, calm down, the kid showed... This is about Joseph. Calm down, the kid showed up with no pants and was eating mustard. Great.
So great line.
Great line from CT. Hawk and Fuzzy Bunny. The code names that Big CT have given each other, Hawk and Fuzzy Bunny. I love CT. The truck intro, Nicole felt like she was going to do well because she's a firefighter. And then
I'm a firefighter.
She like separated her shoulder or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't... I'll tell you what, man, Wes showed no heart. None.
No, he had nothing in it.
He had no heart. And that was really disappointing.
Yeah, it bummed me out because Wes is probably in my top 3 favorite people ever on this show. Top 3 men ever on this show.
Sure. Yeah.
Because usually that's not a problem. If he loses, he's like given every single inch of...
Right.
He looked like he gave up... I mean, they stretched this out. It looked like he gave up early.
Yeah. He just didn't
Which was a bummer.
He didn't have it.
He didn't have it for whatever reason, and it's...
I thought that him saying, "Oh, I'm in here against my best friend in the house" was a cop out.
Yeah, it's like, I'm going to tell you right now, Britton, like, you're obviously a bigger dude than... But, like, I'm going to give everything I got on that challenge against you. I might lose, but, like, I'm going to have, like, a broken hip or something. I mean, like, it's one of those things, I'm not going to be like, oh, is my best friend.
Yeah.
We have a podcast together. I'm never going to give that line. I'm going to be like, I hope I fucking kill him. Because I want to win.
Right. Yeah, and I was a little bit disappointed.
Also, were you just rooting for the truck to knock somebody off the back?
Yes.
Because I was.
100%.
The whole time I'm like, come on now. Come on.
Of people
off the back. Not Nani. Anyone but Nani.
Melissa B writes in, she's got 2 questions. First of all, she asks, have you met any MTV personalities working in California?
I haven't, which is...
That's disappointing.
I mean, I think they're mostly LA based people. I don't know if they travel. I wouldn't trust most of them to drive.
I'm gonna call this out, and this is what it is. Greg works in a bookstore. Probably the safest place to hide from a challenger competitor.
I also work at a pizzeria, and people know how to eat.
Yeah.
No, I've never, MTV person. I'm trying to think if there's anybody that's like was an MTV personality that isn't now. I can't think of anyone on the top of my head.
Carson Daly.
No, that would be. I was honestly thinking like, did Carson? I not that I know of. At least did Carson Daly get pizza,
right? Or a book,
or buy a book? Yeah.
Had a big customer last week, huh?
Yeah, Orlando Bloom.
Yeah, Legolas
it was incredible.
Himself. He bought some archery.
I talked to him. It was great.
He bought some books on archery. Did he?
He bought Lord of the Rings, and I said that hopefully it's a book that he like gifts every year to Peter Jackson. Like every year he just buys him another edition of Lord of the Rings.
I hope he buys him The Hobbit. I hope he buys him The Hobbit and says half that shit wasn't in here, Peter. Just saying.
Yeah, so that was awesome. He was a great guy.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Will Turner himself.
Will Turner.
Her second question is, what are your thoughts on a potential Paula Walnut's comeback?
I hope Paula's okay. It's always my thing.
I think she's fine.
Yeah, if she's back,
that she's not.
I just never know.
I think I only ever saw like one season that she was on.
I always go back to like her Real World season where she was.
Yeah,
like,
I did watch that.
Super depressed.
Oh, she was a mess. That was Johnny. That was Johnny's season too.
That was Johnny's season, yeah. And which is if you want to go back, I'll say this: if you want to go back and watch like an actually like really good Real World season, that's actually like watch that one. Don't go back and watch the first season. What?
No, it was too real.
It was too real. The first two seasons are way too real and not. Yeah. It's. I don't want to say not worth it because...
Let's go Real World Paris.
Yeah, Real World
Paris. That was CT, right? That was CT. Or Real World
that's
Austin?
A good one. Yeah, that's a really good one.
Who was in Austin? Wes was in Austin.
Cameron and Austin, I believe.
No, Austin. Real World Austin.
So Wes
was
and
in
I think...
that,
yeah. But yeah, Paula Walnuts, I mean, I hope... she's great when she's on these things. As long as she has, as long as she wants to really be in it, I'd be
sure.
down.
She's won a couple, right?
Yeah. Well, she knows how to play a game.
Right. I don't know. I would
She's
like
a
to see
good crier, which is a big thing on this show. If you can cry your way into things, it's really helpful.
I would like to see the Real World come back.
I would love it.
Actually the Real World. Or even Road Rules. I mean, that hasn't been a thing in like forever, but... I could go for I would
prefer the Real World to because the Road Rules is almost too close to the challenge.
Yeah, I would like I would like Real World and go ahead and get rid of like, Florida Bama Shore or like Catfish or 16 and Pregnant or any of those shows. Get rid of all of them and just go
I would make it like the Real World and I put it in like here's two stipulations I would have with the Real World.
Sarajevo.
That would okay. I think they should be allowed to have like access to their phone.
Yeah, that's tough.
I do think they should have that. But also it should be like the Super Bowl. Only like 4 major cities.
Yeah.
Can you have it in? New York, LA, Miami,
New Orleans.
Like that's it.
Is it true? You may know this. Is it true that they would film like 5 at a time and just pick whichever one was the most interesting?
Yeah.
Because I think they did one that didn't get picked, but I think they did one in Pittsburgh even once.
They did do one in Pittsburgh. Yeah. I actually stood in line to audition for the one in Pittsburgh.
Oh, that would have been great.
And they cut it off in front of me, like 25 people in front of me or something like that.
That one would have got picked. Would have got picked if you were on it.
Here's the thing about this with me. This was right before this was when I was like straight edge, nothing.
Yeah, right.
Like I didn't do anything.
It would have turned you.
All I did, all I do now is just drink.
Like Vader.
All I do is drink beer and and whiskey. That's it. Not like I'm a crazy person, but imagine if that happens where I go on there because you've seen me when things get nuts.
I'm making my Josh face.
I might be on these challenges.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
I probably would be. I'm guessing if I'm on Real World, I'm living my life through the challenges now.
Yeah, right. 100%.
And
Just like
me and
Anissa.
Nani are just like off and on. I think that's
5.
probably what happens. I think that's probably it. Off and on.
Number 5. I just wanted to go through number 5. Number 5.
She's very pretty to me. Sorry. Okay.
Number 5. I did, as I predicted, I got my hands on Miles Morales, Spider-Man Miles Morales for the PS5, and let me tell you,
You got webs on it.
yeah, I got my webs on it. It's great.
Sure.
It shows off a lot of some of the cool things about the PS5. It looks great. You know, it looks phenomenal when I'm playing it. Better than anything on the PS4 for sure. Here's the number one thing. So, load times. I mentioned how fast the load times are. I timed it when I was playing earlier. From the time that I hit start on the cross media bar on the PS5 homepage to the time I was in the game playing the game. Okay? 9 seconds.
That's insane.
It was about probably, I want to say, from the title screen to in the game was probably about 4 seconds. Yeah.
That's completely insane. Because I just played FIFA like last week. It takes you a minute and a half to get
Right.
from...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, 9 seconds.
Oh my god.
Spider-Man 2018 PS4, you could fast travel. And so what the fast travel would be you pick a subway station, there's a little cutscene of Spider-Man riding the subway and like guys like looking at him like, oh, it's Spider-Man on the subway. It would probably take about, I don't know, 30 seconds, something like that, to fast travel. In Miles Morales on the PS5, you select your fast travel destination and then it's just him running out of the subway station and you're there. So the load times are incredible for this. They use the same exact map that Spider-Man 2018 used. That's why they were able to turn things around so quickly, because there's not any real change to the geography of the game. The Miles' powers are really cool to use. He's got like electricity punches or whatever, and then he can go invisible, so that gives you more stealth options. It's the same combat. I think at one point in time, you mentioned playing the Batman Arkham games. It's kind of the same like dodge technique combat as the Arkham games. It's just way more fast paced. Cool. Whereas the Batman games are I think they're pretty deliberate. I play them pretty fast, but I like to just I play games fast. That's how I like to play them, like games like that. But Spider-Man is like moving at warp speed compared to the Batman games. The 2018 one was as well, but especially with Miles. The story is pretty good. It's definitely setting up the main sequel for Spider-Man 2, so that's great. But I've decided that I'm going to do some... I'm going to capture some gameplay, and I'm going to do like a video review of this when I'm done. I'm going to post that on the YouTube channel, so that's going to be my first.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's going to be my first video of that. I'm going to try and do one a month. I'm going to make that my commitment to doing that. So that was pretty much it for number 5. I just wanted to, share a little bit about Miles on the PS5 and how that's going. It's short. I've had it since Friday. And I'm like 65% of the way through it already. And I haven't played it that much. So it's a pretty short game. But yeah, it's great. I think it's definitely, a PS5 must-have for early adopters for sure.
I'll definitely get it once I get one.
Have you played Spider-Man?
I'm gonna get both of them. I'm gonna get
Okay.
I'm gonna get once I get the PS5. I'm just like
kind
of waiting.
If you get the Ultimate Edition for Miles, it comes with the
right.
It comes with the PS5 version of the PS4 game.
That's what I'm waiting for. Bad.
Yeah, I would do that just because it's an extra 20. It's only like an extra $20. Sticking in the video game realm for number 6, Kanye West and Kim Kardashian West a few years ago in 2016 approached Nintendo with an idea about a game. They even got an interview with former Nintendo CEO Reggie Fils-Aimé and the father of modern video games, Shigeru Miyamoto. If you have ever picked up a video game controller and you don't know who Miyamoto is, go jump in a river and drown yourself. Speaking on the Talking Games with Reggie and Harold podcast, Reggie recalled the meeting saying, quote, "We had so many different projects at Nintendo going on, and the possibility of doing something with Kanye just wasn't there. And so I had to find a way to politely declined this opportunity to work with him. I told him, Kanye, you don't want to work with us because we're tough, we're hard. All we do is push for the very best content. We would not be the type of partner you would want to work with. And he looks at me and says, Reggie, you're exactly the type of partner I want because of that reason. It's like, oh my gosh. To be a fly on the wall.
Oh, it's like literally exactly
for that
just to
meeting.
be there for unbelievable.
Here's the thing I bet you, in terms of creativity, Kanye is probably the smartest creative person in 99% of the rooms that he sits in.
Oh, sure.
This was the one that he wasn't.
This is the one where you're not. It literally was what I was going to say. Like, this is the one room where he doesn't make it. Like, he does not understand this.
If you're listening and you don't know who Miyamoto is, and I said he's the father of modern video games, he created Donkey Kong, Mario, Zelda, all those games. Okay, so he's the man behind all of this.
Yep.
Some of the most classic games, and he's been at it for 40 years. You know, this guy. And yeah, I mean, in terms of like creative genius, this is the one time Kanye is not the smartest guy in the room, for sure.
Oh, sure. And it would just, I mean, all the crazy things aside from Kanye, this was 2016 before we kind of knew he was like super crazy. You know, we knew he was going that direction, but it was not. So like, I wish I would love to have at least a transcript, at least read it, what happened. You know, somebody was definitely keeping notes because, man, that would have been incredible. I would have loved it. Like, what do you think the game would have been?
Oh man, some kind of a fever dream for sure.
Sure, it's just my dark twisted fantasy, but like as a game.
Here's the thing: is I guess from what I've read, Kanye is actually a really big gamer. And it
doesn't shock me.
Said somewhere along the line that that's what he wanted to do before he got into music was make games. So I wouldn't be surprised if he actually had it in him to make like a good game. It's just trying to find the right partner or whatever. I don't think Nintendo's the partner for Kanye because if he's trying to make like edgy content, Nintendo's not it. They make games for kids. I mean, they're great games, but they're games for kids. They're very family friendly. They're not.
Maybe he's just trying to make a game for Northwest.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Diaper Patrol.
Yeah, maybe Kanye is secretly who created Bug Snacks. That's a 7-year-old's LSD trip. I don't know. I just thinking about Kanye West and Kim Kardashian sitting down with Reggie and Miyamoto just for some reason puts a huge smile on my face. Quick hitters. Let's see. We've got a few, and we have Sony has 10 projects based on games coming to either movies or TV. Series. 2 of those are assumed to be the Uncharted Tom Holland thing, and then the Last of Us on HBO. Nobody asked for this.
Nobody wants this right now.
Nobody wants. You know what? In the right hands, a God of War thing would be really good, but other than that, I don't know what they're shooting for. I don't really like this.
No.
A lost Game Boy peripheral called the Work Boy has been discovered after 28 years. The Workboy basically turned your Game Boy into a PDA, with like calendar and calculator functionality. It's cool. Yeah. I like it when they find stuff like this.
I do too. Yeah. It's just like a smart Game Boy.
Well,
smart-ish. For the time.
I think from the sounds of it, this is like a kid that passed high school with C's.
Sure.
No offense. No offense taken. A class action lawsuit has indeed been levied against CD Projekt Red in the wake of the Cyberpunk 2077 debacle. While the legal battle will be ongoing, it is worth noting that Cyberpunk has sold in excess of 13 million copies across all platforms, and that is after refunds were accounted for, so it seems as though CD Projekt Red will be financially just fine for the foreseeable future.
I have a friend who actually has this game, and I was
what?
Yeah, for
what system?
PS4, and he's like, it was rough, but it's getting better each time.
Well, that's because they've patched it.
Yeah.
They've already patched it like a bunch of times, but like out of the box, it was such a train wreck.
He said initially like terrible, but he was like stoked. Like he said, like I'm not disappointed now, and this was almost a week ago. So
here's my thing though is that this game. Okay, so you said it was like a week ago. This game came out. It's just unacceptable to release a game in that bad of shape.
Yeah, right.
You know, and it was, we talked about the Avengers thing. There was the first patch fixed over 1,000 bugs. It's just unacceptable to ship again. Delay it. Well, we've already delayed it. We've delayed it 4 times. We'll delay it a 5th time.
Right.
Because there's no excuse to release a game that's this broken. Could you imagine if like a movie released and just like half of it wasn't there?
I think that was Cats.
Well, James Corden was in that, so. Cobra Kai Season 3 will be out the day that this publishes. Mixed reviews so far. I need to get back to this. I was watching the first season for a while. It's funny and it hits the nostalgia, but this is the first Netflix season. We'll see. Any thoughts?
I haven't watched it. No, I haven't watched it.
I think if you like, did you like Karate Kid back in the day?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, you should watch it then.
Okay. I probably will. I know
It's
a lot
funny.
of other people
The episodes
like,
are
recommend
short.
it to me.
Yeah, they're short episodes. They're like 20 minutes.
It's probably something I do. It's one of those things I do when Jenny goes to bed, and I just bang it out.
The Disney movie Soul, which debuted on Christmas Day on Disney Plus, was Trent Reznor, who is a Mercer legend, Nine Inch Nails frontman, composed the score for this movie. Doesn't seem like that fits, but
No, I mean, he just does what he does. I've heard this is good. I've had a couple friends that have watched it actually and said that they've recommended it to me. So,
do you want to review it next week?
sure, let's do
All right,
it.
Let's do it.
Do it.
All right, there you go. There you have it. Soul.
That's an easy review.
Yeah, it's probably only like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Soul review coming at you next week. He seems like he only does movies nowadays. Like that's like Nine Inch Nails is like not a thing anymore, and he just does movies. I don't know if that's true.
I mean, he's probably doing okay.
Oh yeah, he's doing fine.
So
He finally
whatever.
came. Like he hated Mercer for the longest time, which is the town that he grew up in, and it's the town that I grew up in. But he actually came to terms with everything, and he's donated a lot of money to the community and the school and everything. And
That's cool.
In the last like 10 years or so, he paid for. Well, like his grandpa used to take his dogs to the park every day, and you could always tell that it was Trent Reznor's grandpa because he'd be the only like 70-year-old with a Nine Inch Nails t-shirt on, and like walk his dogs and stuff. And so he paid for a dog park to be put in, like a really nice dog park.
Oh, that's
to be put in
rad.
The park. Yeah, and they had like a they did like a dog days in the park thing where it was like, bring your dogs, we'll have games and all this. So this was when we just had the one dog, and we took her in and we were doing stuff. I turned around and I like stopped, and Melissa was like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, it's Trent Reznor is there, like 10 feet away, walking towards me with was that like you got some chows or something, Dana? But no, I mean that was cool, and like I said, he donated a bunch of money to the music department at the high school and stuff like that. But by all accounts, he's a pretty decent guy.
By the way, if you're looking up in the rafters and you see a Reznor heater in your place, that's his family. Just
That's
so you
his
know.
family. Yep.
Just so you know.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. IGN listed their top 15 shows of all time. I just wanted to say that plenty of the BXG submissions made that list, including number one for them was also The Wire. So there's that.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then Taylor Swift, Evermore, 4.5 out of 5 stars on Rolling Stone. How do you feel about that?
Half star low. Great.
Fair enough.
It's so good. I can't. It's just me. I can't stop smiling when we talk about Evermore and we just talk
I
about
can't stop
Taylor
smiling when we talk about Dairy Queen.
Swift. Here we go.
And
There we go. LaCroix. Thank you, LaCroix, for being our unofficial
sponsor.
official sponsor.
Okay, media recommendations. What do you got? We actually skipped this last week when I was going back through, but that was fine because the episode was hella long.
Well, mostly it's just because I've been catching, like, it's Wonder Woman. It's been Wonder Woman 84. I'm, like, barely getting through my books right now just because I've been super busy. Christmas was Christmas.
Right.
Basketball games are all terrible. It's still weird getting back in the NBA. I'm trying to, but I'm like, you kind of need that break. That's basically it. I've just been working. So it's been Wonder Woman. It's honestly been Wonder Woman and work.
Right.
Which is like, if it's Gal Gadot and work, it's like, that's fine. But then it was sitting through the last hour and a half of 84 that was a little rough.
Yeah, it got a little long in the tooth. It didn't need to be 2.5 hours. They could have kept it tight at 2 and it would have been fine.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so I've been playing Miles. Obviously, I'm going to keep playing that. I'm going to probably play that here as soon as we're done. And then I actually started reading today. I haven't had a book review, I think, since our very first week. But I started reading Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. That's obviously the sequel to Ready Player 1. I've been looking forward to this. The reviews, here we go again. The reviews aren't great for it.
No,
Like
the first one's
numerical-
so good though. Like I mean,
Yeah.
like that's the
But
thing. It's so good.
I'll make my own, determination on how that is, and I'll be able to speak on that a little bit.
If you want to do like a
moving
multi,
forward.
we can because I can bang through that quick too, if you want.
Listen, I read really slowly, so
That's what I'm saying. It's like if you, whenever you want to do it, let me know because I'll just read it.
okay. Well, just listen. When I say I read slowly, what I mean is that we may be able to review it for the New Year's Day episode of 2022.
Whatever.
It's not because I don't read. It's because I just don't read a lot. It's
Sure.
But I mean, we'll see. It's like junk food. It's like a junk food book. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not. It's not like it's hard to read. It's not like it's like reading. What was the other guy I was reading? Cormac McCarthy. It's not like it's reading him, which is like reading some. It's like trying to read a book while somebody's punching you in the face over and over again. So it's not. It's not challenging, but. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. It was pretty. I think it was a pretty good episode. Sarah?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, we covered so many things. This is still a challenge podcast as far as I'm concerned, and I found out that they have their own, and it's hosted by two people who are on the show. So we're actually giving you better content.
There you go.
Yeah, I just want to let you know.
Who are the two people?
Tori and Anissa. So the two people I would not ever want hosting that
I like
podcast.
Tori.
I don't.
You don't like
I
Tori?
just-
I like Tori.
No, I don't like Tori.
I like Tori.
I don't have anything against Anissa so much as that I just don't want her telling me anything ever. But if it was Nani and CT,
Well, it was a great show tonight, and we want to thank everybody for listening, and Happy New Year, and yeah.
yeah,
Take
Happy
care.
New Year.
Tell your
don't forget-
friends. Oh,
Don't forget that it's a new year. It's a new you.
number 7. Tell your friends, tell your family
Tell your mothers.
about the unmistakable essence of the BXG podcast. Take care, guys.
Thanks for listening. Love you guys.